We're going to look at the concept of sin within the context of penance and reconciliation. First, a brief definition. Sin is an inordinate or bad human action which is in discord with truth and goodness. All human actions require reason, that is the intellect, and the will. Through our reason, we seek what is true. Through our will, we seek and accomplish what is good. This is the basis for freedom in the human person. Now, all actions should be ordered according to what is true and what is good. When we fail to be ordered to those things, we sin. Now, in order to determine if a particular human action is evil or good, we must look at the three aspects of the action: the intention, the object, and the circumstances. The intention is the answer to the question, why are we acting in the first place? What are we trying to accomplish by this activity? The second aspect is the object. That's the activity itself. The activity we choose to realize our intention must be appropriately ordered to the intention. Some are better than others. Some actions are better to accomplishing our intention. Some actions, however, regardless of the intention, are completely wrong. So some objects are wrong in and of themselves. Others are neutral. And finally, circumstances. Circumstances are all those other peripheral things surrounding an action. Who's going to be involved, when it's going to take place, where it's going to take place, more specifics on how it's going to take place. We must find the best circumstances in order to perform an action, in order for it to be good. Otherwise, it fails in its goodness. Sin is an offense, and because it's an offense, it requires someone to be offended. And so three people have the potential of being offended by our sin: God, our neighbor, but we cannot forget ourselves. We can indeed act in discord with truth and goodness towards our very selves. All sin is sin against God, but some are more properly sins against our neighbor, and some are more properly sins against ourselves. We can also sin by our activity, but also we can sin by our inactivity. This is the difference between sins of commission and sins of omission. Now, in order to understand this, you have to first understand that humans act in three different ways. And if we can act in three different ways, we can fail to act in three different ways. We act in thought, interiorly. We act in our words, what we say. We also act in the very actions as we know them properly, what we do. Which means we can sin by having an improper thought, saying something that is improper, or doing something that is improper. We can also sin by failing to think about what we should think about. We can fail to say what we should say, and we can also fail to do what we should do. That's the difference between sin of commission and sin of omission. Now, every sin is wrong, but not every sin is serious. In the church, we maintain the distinction between what is mortal sin, that is, sin which results in the death of sanctifying grace in the soul, the divine life, and earns eternal damnation, and venial sin, which is less serious sin. It wounds charity, makes it difficult to live a holy life, and if committed enough, can actually dispose us towards more serious mortal sin. Now, in order to determine the gravity of a sin, we basically have to meet three criteria in order to be mortal sin. So a mortal sin must meet all three criteria. It must be grave matter, meaning the object or activity must be seriously wrong. We must have full knowledge that what we are doing is sinful. If we don't know it's a sin, then we can't be held accountable for that. And finally, consent of will. We must freely choose to do this activity and not be manipulated or somehow tricked into committing this sin. All three criteria must be met in order to be mortal sin. Otherwise, it is venial sin.